So now that we are in a Google Meet, let's take a look at all of the various controls and features that we find inside Google Meet. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of work my way across to the different features and talk about each one of those. So we start here with our microphone. So this is our sound that we can turn on and off. By default, unless the host has automatically muted everyone as they enter the meeting, your microphone is going to be turned on when you enter the meeting. If you want to turn that off, you just click that little button. It's going to turn red, put a line through the microphone so that you know it's turned off. Your device can detect if you are talking, so if you have it muted and you are talking and you really want to be heard, it's going to give that little message and pop up so that you can turn that on and off. Next to that is the camera. Again, by default, it will usually start turned on when you join a Google Meet. You can turn off that camera if you do not want to be on camera or do not need to be on camera during that time. And then if you want to turn it back on, just press the button again and the camera will come back. The next feature is the closed caption feature. So if I click on closed captioning, it's going to default to the language that is set for these meetings, for the language that you speak. So you will notice that as I'm talking, the closed captionings are appearing on the screen. It may not be 100% perfect, but it does a pretty good job of translating those closed captionings. Okay, I do want to show you one other feature of closed captioning, so I've turned that off for just a moment. I'm going to hit closed caption again, and you'll notice it says English here. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to open it back up. And let's say that the language of our meeting is in English, so I'm speaking in English, but I want to turn on translated captions, and then I want it to translate to Spanish. So now I can see that translated captions are turned on. It's going to be in Spanish. So as I start talking in English, you can see that it's actually translating into Spanish in my closed captioning. So this would be great for communicating with EL students, EL families, those that English is not their native language. I'm going to turn off closed captioning now, and let's look at some of the other features. So now we can also send reactions. So if somebody is talking and you want to send a reaction, you can always do a thumbs up, or you can give them a little applause, or you can do some of those different emojis and reactions during the meeting. You have the ability to present your screen or share your screen. So you just choose this button. You can decide whether you want to share your entire screen, a window, or a tab. Most of the time, you'll probably just select your entire screen. That way, if you need to bounce back and forth between different screens, then you can do that. When you select that, then you will click on the picture of your screen. The share button will turn blue. You will click share, and then it's going to start sharing your screen. So you can see that here. When you're finished, you can hit stop presenting. It's going to pull it back, and they're just going to be able to see you, not your screen any longer. A couple of other options I want to point out. If you just want to show them one particular window, you can do that, or a particular tab. Now, if you are going to play a video or something with sound, in your Google Meet, you would want to choose tab, so it just shares the tab that video is in. That works best for sound and animation and video. The next option is the raise your hand option. So if you are in a meeting with a group of people, you have a question, but you don't want to interrupt the presenter, you can press the hand button. You'll hear a little kind of beep noise, and then it will show that you have your hand raised. If you're looking at a panel view of multiple people, you'll see a little hand beside that person in their picture so that you know that they have their hand raised. Okay. As with everything Google, 3 little dots tells us we have more options. So let's look at those options here. So cast this meeting would be like we can cast it to a bigger screen or to something else so that we could show it maybe on a projector or something like that if there's one available to do that. Whiteboard will actually open a Google Jamboard so that you can write or take notes, and it kind of works as an interactive online virtual whiteboard. You can record meetings. So if you want to record this so that people that could not attend could watch it later, then you can do that. Now, when I click record, it's going to bring up this recording. It'll ask you if you want to do captions, and it'll ask you about a transcript. We'll talk about both of those, or we'll talk about the transcript more in just a minute. And then you can hit start recording. It is going to pull up a message so that everybody is aware that it's going to be recorded and kind of giving consent for that. Some other options that we have here. You can change the layout, so you can decide if you want to look at it as a tiled view, spotlight, or sidebar view. And if you do a tiled view, you can decide how many tiles of people you would like to see in that view. You can actually go to full screen so that you don't see any of the other things around that. And then when you want to go back out, just click on the X, it'll take you back out. You can do picture-in-picture. So this is really nice if you still want to be able to see the meeting, see the people that are presenting, but you need to maybe go and look at a different tab. Maybe you want to look at some document while you're in the meeting because you're working on that. It allows you to do both at the same time so that you aren't not seeing those people. And then when you're ready to go back to it, you can just press bring back here. It'll take you back. You can apply visual effects. So you could blur your background if you wanted to, if you didn't want the people behind you to be able to see what was in the background. Then you can blur your background and it will take care of that. So all you see is your face. You can add different backgrounds if you would like so that it looks like you're on a beautiful tropical island, or you're in a greenhouse, or whatever your mood is. You can put those backgrounds in there as well, or you can turn off those effects. We've already talked about turning on captions. The option is there as well. If people do not have access to a device that they can join via video, there is also the option to use the phone. And so you can give them options by either calling them or giving them a number that they can dial in with a pin to join if they can't join via virtually. There's some other options here if you have any issues that you can report a problem. Obviously, when you finish the call, you can just hit leave call. When you do that, it's going to ask you, are you just the one leaving the call, or is everyone? Do you need to end the entire call? So you can decide how you want to do that. If we move on over here, you can click meeting details and you get that joining info again. If you need to copy that and send that out to others, you can do so. The little people here will show me how many people are in the meeting, so I can see who all is here. I can click here. I could pin to the screen. That means that person is going to stay on the screen the entire time, and it's not going to go back and forth when different people are talking. Then you can unpin. You can add people here. We'll talk about inviting people in just a little bit. And then you can also see who all is muted, who is not muted there. The chat is next, so you can send messages and put things in the chat back and forth to the whole group as you are having the meeting. Then we have several activities built in to Google Meet. So first of all, we have breakout rooms. So you can take the people that are in your meeting and you can break them out into smaller groups so that they can have individual conversations. If I click on breakout room, then I can hit set up breakout room. I can decide how many I want. I can set a timer for how long I want those to go before it automatically brings you back to the main room. And then if I had more than one person in here, I could shuffle it and it would randomly put people in. Or you can have breakout rooms and you can either type the people's names or drag and drop their little picture here down to these breakout rooms and organize them the way you want. When you're ready to open them, you can click open breakout rooms and it will put everybody in their breakout room. Another activity that's available are polls. Maybe you just have a quick question that you want to ask, so you can start a poll, ask a question, give options, and then you can decide whether you want the person's names to appear or not when they respond, and then you can save it and use it later, so you can make these ahead of time, or if you're doing it on the fly during the meeting, you can just hit launch, or when you're ready, you can hit launch, and it's going to put that question out for people to answer. Q&A works a lot like the chat, but if you don't want a bunch of questions that needed to be answered, getting bogged down with maybe other things that people might comment on and put in the chat, you can open up a question and answer session where people can ask questions. You can decide whether you want their name to have to be there or if you want it to be posted anonymously. They can post those questions, and then whoever needs to look at those to answer those questions can go look at those and answer them during the virtual call. We talked about recording, so there's another place to find where you can record the meetings. You also can do transcripts, and I've done this a couple of times in meetings, and it works fairly well, at least gets the main gist of things. So if you want to do a transcription, you hit start transcription. Again, it's going to give you that message because you want to make sure that everyone knows you're doing this and gives consent. And something will pop up that lets them know that this is happening. And then if you hit start for this, it's going to say that it's transcribing. And it is going to transcribe everything that gets said during the meeting. And then once the meeting is over, you stop the transcription, and whoever the host of that meeting is going to get emailed a document that will also appear in your Google Drive that will be a transcription of everything that was said and who said it. You probably will have to go back and correct a few maybe spelling errors or things like that come up because it doesn't pick up everything exactly, but it's a really good kind of overview, and it picks up things pretty well. Also, under activities, we find that whiteboarding idea again, which we talked about earlier, where you can open up a Jamboard. Then the last option that we have here is host controls. So this is where you have some options on what you will allow the participants in the meeting to be able to do. So you can turn on or off host management in general. And then if you have host management turned on, you can decide whether people can share their screens, send chat messages, send reactions, whether they can turn on and off their own microphone and video. If you need to keep everybody muted, if you need to keep everybody's camera turned off, you can control those things from here. You can also control whether questions and answers are allowed. So you have some control as the host as to what the participants in that meeting are able to do. So Google Meet has lots of features and controls that will aid you when you are doing a virtual meeting, and hopefully some of these will help you if you do Google Meet in the future.